Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and today is Black Friday. That is right, the day after Thanksgiving, which is my prime day for getting poppy seeds sown. Now, as promised, I'm going to make a bunch of videos today to show you exactly how to do this direct seed sowing process. But I wanted to first start with a video kind of introducing this concept. So I've been direct seeding annual spring flowering plants since, like 20 years, for 20 years now. I learned this method when I was working as an estate gardener at Montrose Gardens, which is in Hillsborough, North Carolina. It's a 100-acre property with a very small staff, and the best way to manage all of that land and to reduce weed pressure was to scatter seeds, specifically things like poppies, larkspur, nigella, bachelor buttons, to be able to fill up any open space in the gardens and engage that ground plane with plants that you're growing intentionally. And that's really what this method is rooted in. The reason I do this with annuals is simple. They're not permanent. This is not a forever and ever landscape method. This is a thing that you can do to just fill in gaps, knowing that every year your garden is going to be different. Your plants are going to grow. So I like the temporariness of this. This is not meant to be a permanent installation. This is 6 months. And then in the middle of June, all these plants will die, you'll rip them out, and then you can replant for the summer season. Now, I specifically love doing this because I really enjoy a spring garden, and I really like the style of cottage gardening, but I don't want the maintenance of a cottage garden that's all perennials, because in my climate here in the Raleigh, North Carolina Zone 7 area, a lot of perennials are way more work in the long run compared to annuals. Like, sowing seed is not hard, but dividing perennials over, every single year as they grow out of bounds, it's actually a lot of work. And that's another reason why I love using these seeding annuals. Now, why do they have to be direct seeded? Well, that's simple. They don't transplant because they develop tap roots. So this is why you have to scatter the seed where you want them to grow and just leave them alone. Why do I do this on Black Friday? Well, in part, it's because that's what I was taught to do. This year, I've been doing experiments, sowing seeds as early as the beginning of October, and the seed didn't germinate well. And that's because the soil was too warm. All of these cool season seeds need to be sown on cold soil, and we've only recently had our first hard frost. Now, the seeds that I started sowing in like the late October, beginning of November time have started to germinate. And that's a great sign to know that now is the target season. So basically, I'm going to expand my recommendation and say you can sow any of these cool season seeds between Halloween and New Year's. So that's a pretty good time span for you to be able to knock out a few minutes of your life to, sprinkle pixie dust, as we call it here. What are the seeds? Well, very specifically, I grow Papaver somniferum, also known as the bread seed poppy. Some people call it the opium poppy. I also grow larkspur, nigella, which is called love in a mist commonly, bachelor buttons, lunaria or money plant, all the cool season grains, wheat, barley, oats, rye, and a lot of different greens like kale, mustard, spinach, arugula, lettuce. I'm sure I'm missing some things just off the top of my head. So I'm going to be basically sowing these seed combinations over the next couple of weeks to fill in all the open space in my beds. Now that we've had a hard frost, I can come through and actually get rid of all the summer stuff. And that's actually first on my list to do today. I have actually quite a lot to accomplish, so I'm gonna turn this camera around and show you what I have to deal with, and then we're gonna get busy out in the garden. My last 2 containers finally got nipped by the frost over this Thanksgiving week, so I need to replace those. I have the plants to do it. It'll be time for me to start trimming back all the stuff that got nipped, like the papyrus. We're here. Of course, the sweet potato arch is definitely ready to be deassembled now. It is fully frosted. And you can really see all the persimmons now, which now that they've gone through a frost, they might almost be ready to eat. They're still pretty hard, but I'll probably go ahead and harvest these. I have this whole work zone to clean up, and I will start planting potatoes and other things in containers here. Of course, I'm going to be using my soil cube compost to top dress all the beds before I sow the seeds. Of course, more tender plants to come out, especially the big old things like castor beans. I'll be collecting seeds off of these. These are actually going to require using a handsaw because look at that woody stem. And I have a lot of these to take out. You can see the beds that I had already planted for winter were not damaged at all by frost. These are all cold tolerant plants. But I'll trim back the Bartmansia. All those tomatoes and bananas back there need to come out. And a lot of cleanup here in front of the garage with the Salvia leucantha. And then I have pumpkin vines growing everywhere, and I'll need to just pull those out of the borders to clean it up. One thing that was not damaged by the cold is this beautiful floating arrangement that I made a few days ago. But to get to my seed that I want to sow today, I actually have to empty out this so I can now open the refrigerator door. So that's going to be one of the first steps in conquering today's giant list of to-dos. Generally my approach for areas like this with this lantana, I'll just come through with a push mower, mow all that down. All that biomass will stay right where it is. It's a lot less maintenance that way. You can see that the chrysanthemums still look beautiful. They are not damaged at all by any sort of cold weather. But any of the subtropical plants, things like ginger lilies up here, all of these will need to get trimmed down and mulched over for the winter season, which I will be using lots of the leaves that are falling all over the property to give these just some extra insulation for the winter. And I will be mowing down all the Phlox paniculata. And this bed has already been planted. You can see all the Japanese maple leaves are falling now. Big thing to get done today is to clean up this front foundation bed. All the tropicals have been officially nipped, and it's time to transform this bed for the winter and ultimately spring season. But I'm going to start here in the wave where the frost has definitely made all of the cushaw squash kind of melt down to the ground. So I'm just gonna come through. I have some sesame seeds to harvest, and I'm just going to sort of rake in all of the leaves that are fallen into this bed and make it so that there is fresh soil on the surface so that I can start sowing my first rounds of seeds, which will include wheat and poppies combined with larkspur in this big border that dissects the middle of my front lawn. I can't wait to continue to post more videos today as I get all of my Black Friday gardening tasks accomplished. So stay tuned for more how-to instructions seed ID videos, and everything else that I can think of that you need to know to have a successful direct seeding experience this year. Thanks for watching, everybody.